I just, the camera's probably just going to be pointed at me, but I just don't want to, I don't want to do something covert.
No, certainly not. Yeah, make it part of the document, part of the record.
Okay.
All right. Let's do the intro here. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Ben Busy broadcasting to you from Kyoto, Japan. Today, I am joined by none other than Mr. Inmendham. I hesitate to say your full name. I don't know if there's I just exercise some discretion in that.
I think all labels suck. So yeah, the former formerly known as shithead.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll just make a symbol like that.
Yeah. Like Prince, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Round.
A little background on Inmendham. The author, or rather the creator of 3,429 videos at the time of this recording. There's only one word to describe that, and that's prolific. You talk about topics ranging from neuroscience to consciousness studies to religion, some politics. Would you say that there is a theme throughout all of your videos that you're kind of narrowing in on? Is it consciousness?
Well, I'd say the theme is that it's a reductionist philosophy. And what you're really doing is that if you look at single thing out there, human beings have, generally speaking, messed up anything they touch. Mm-hmm. And they've done it with philosophy. They've made everything more complicated than it is, right? The economy's not so complicated. It's a bunch of give and take and all that kind of stuff. And you got to see whose pockets are the fullest. And you say, yeah, quite obviously they're takers. The guy with the empty is the giver. The guy with the broken back is the real giver. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I'm just saying you can find simple logic and all this stuff. So all this, they've just made everything more complicated. We're basically just bugs. Squirming through this biosphere that's been doing this thing for 4 billion years, and so it's just cutting out the pretense. So I would it's just getting rid of the bullshit.
Right. Do you ascribe then some value though to it, like that? It's reductionist, okay, one, but is it pessimist? Like, is your philosophy somehow informed by like the Schopenhauer, I don't even know how to say that. But Schopenhauer's
that's an example. That's an example, though. I mean, Schopenhauer, he's got, green book, red book, thick book, 600, 800 pages. It's not that complicated, okay? Life is incredibly dangerous, right? From the moment you're born, you're rolling dice all over the place. That's all Schopenhauer's basically saying is, shit, is this really worth it? I mean, is a mating couple of lions worth 16 dead cubs? Right. I mean, if we were playing by real biological rules still, okay, you'd have to have 10 kids just to keep up with the plague. Okay, I mean, just to keep up with the attrition. All right, of all the kids that's going to die, you'd have to have 10 to replace yourself. That's the real world, and it's dismal and horrid, and anybody who thinks they're worth killing 4 kids to have, right? Am I worth killing 4 kids? Am I worth? Well, I'm just saying, am I worth the biosphere I consume every day? I don't think so.
Right.
So I'm just saying it's not pessimistic. It's
it's real.
That's a label, right? I mean, I'm not going to call others the optimist. I'm just going to call them unrealistic or irrational or deluded.
Naive.
Yeah, I'm not going to bother with optimistic.
How does Buddhism inform your views? Like, I know you're like along this line, basically attributing the horror of modern civilization or just existence to whatever it is that we do. I'm not sure what I'm trying to say here. But this notion that everything is suffering, is that just kind of like what you're saying in a different line? How has Buddhism, if at all, informed your philosophy?
Well, I'd say not at all, just because the Buddhist is kind of silly in the sense that they conclude life is a losing game, and yet they keep playing it they just keep playing it. You know what I mean? It's like they don't say, let's stop reproducing, let's get off the train. They just keep investing in what they're claiming to be a losing game. And that doesn't make much sense, right? Why should I have kids so they have to die by fire to escape? That kind of, you know what I mean? The logic escapes me. So I wouldn't say I was personally in any way informed by Buddhism because, like I said, I didn't really understand it in my youth, and I can't say that anything about it seems very logical. And again, I'm just going to argue that this whole idea about being informed by something, the only thing you really need to be informed by is, I would argue, is maybe evolution. And not necessarily just in Darwin's narrative, but in the true narrative of the fact that right now there's, it's an insane amount of biological life on this planet that does have neurons, okay? There's tiny little mites all over you right now, and they all have brains with neurons in them. There's stuff going on here that, and it's on a level that's incredible, and people are just completely ignorant. They can't even see the sentience of the cows they're eating, let alone all the levels of it that exist in this biosphere.
So would you ascribe consciousness, or as Randy Helserman would say, ascribing normative behavior to, I listened to your last podcast, your last video, you were talking about paramecium, and I don't know. What I gathered from it was that you thought, what I took from it, now I could be wrong now hearing you speak about it, is that paramecium are somehow unconscious. Or do I have that wrong? Or are you of the mind that
no,
they
of course
are?
They're not on the list. They're just machines. They're just they're barely functioning on the level of a tree. My hand is more complex than a paramecium in many respects, and if I cut my hand off, I don't have the expectation that it's feeling anything or doing any. So neurons create consciousness. I would certainly say that it's a brain function that requires a certain number of neurons. But I'd say the real point of it is real point of consciousness. The function of it is to create the sensation, because that's the valuer. The valuer is the most, let's see, I gotta find the right word, right? Something to take note of. The most notable function of our brain is the fact that it creates an understanding of value. Because that's the tricky part, okay? Identifying things that are like each other, you know what I mean? That's easy. Seeing something and saying that looks like, that's easy for a brain to do, right? Comparison and matching. But to understand value, that's the tricky part, because your brain is basically seeing something that is invisible in the real world, right? In terms of the meaning of something. The meaning is invisible, and we're seeing it. And that's what the brain's doing, okay? I mean, seeing a fire and seeing the consequence of a fire burning a feeling thing, okay, that's the complicated part, because the value is invisible. It's not a material thing, so to speak. And our brain sees it.
At what point do you, because there has to be some kind of taxonomy or some kind of hierarchy of value. Is that, I keep saying this, I want to say, is that informed by Maslow's hierarchy? How does that factor in? How do you contend with the fact that it's constantly rearranging and switching, what we would consider to take higher precedence? We're going
based on some kind of notion of winner, and based on some sort of notion that the competition is about who's the best thief. You know what I mean? I mean, evolution is a different kind of game than some sort of honorable game, right? I mean, the cheaters win in evolution, right? You can disguise yourself as a poisonous thing and pretend you're poisonous. You know what I mean? And win. Lots of cheating going on in evolution, and the biggest cheat is in our understanding of what complexity means or what's significant. Well, the only thing that's really significant is the feeling thing, and that happened, I would say, close to 1 billion years ago. Okay, and that's a real, that's before insects and crustaceans and fish went their separate way. I mean, we're talking about trilobites or something. All right, we're talking about going way back to find the first ouch. And the first ouch is the game, right? That's when an organism's welfare matters, is when it can be hurt. Doesn't matter if it does, if it doesn't feel and I step on it, who cares, right? It just can't matter.
What do you think about this game-like quality that consciousness, or that the brain applies to the world?
It's just a simplification. It has to simplify a complex circumstance. So it has to label it, right? It has to identify threat and identify food and identify, it's doing that fight and flight thing, whatever, feed, fight and flight. So it's just simplifying a very nuanced environment into generalities and pigeonholes. It's just pigeonholing the world and then applying its selfishness to what can I eat, what can I fuck, and what should I get the fuck away from.
Yeah. Among the individuals that you've interacted with on YouTube, one of whom is Piro. Where do you stand relative to Piro, or where does Piro stand rather relative to you?
You just said it right there. Piro doesn't stand. Okay, Weebles wobble; they don't stand up. He just bounces and bounces and bounces, and you can never nail him down. You can never pin him anywhere. He'll, one week he's, and the next week he's something else. So yeah, just no point.
Does that speak to like the ever evolving kind of scale of precedence that you can't necessarily fix yourself to one rock solid, unerring, unchanging principle, given the fact that everything is continually evolving?
Well, I would argue exactly the opposite, because that's definitely what I'm attempting to do, is to nail it all down into simple language, put it into simple words, and just say this is how it really works. I'm doing it with physics even. I mean, this is how it really works, and it's really dumb and it's really simple. And that's sort of what I'm arguing when I'm talking about, we're just bugs, okay, and we can sing and dance, okay, and we can use language. Big deal. What are we using language to do? Get pussy, evade the IRS. I mean, we're just using it to scheme. We're not doing anything brilliant.
Right. I was going to ask, I have a list of different things here, police, citizenry, relations, Trump and the alt-right, future of occupation, universal basic income, AI, robotics, and stuff like that. But it seems like all of that stuff kind of pales in comparison. How are you able to kind of perspective shift and apply your philosophy to these other kind of what might seem kind of like irrelevant almost concepts or ideas?
You just do the plan A, plan B, plan C, plan D. You just know, plan A ain't happening tomorrow, so I'm going to have to use plan B. And plan B ain't going to work either, so I'm going to have to go to plan C. And so you just play with whatever you can fix. So anything. If I can stop one person from stepping into dog do, okay, I've got something done today, right? So yes, there's always something you can make better. There's always something you can fix. But yeah, we're a long way. Okay, long way from getting to the big fix, which is, hey, human beings have to prove their bullshit. You know what I mean? Everybody's talking shit like they know what they're talking about. But nobody's balls are in the fire, so to speak. You know what I mean? It's all talk. Yes, it's all talk, okay? And it all fucks somebody else, all right? And so we got to make this talk mean something. If you're going to say something about what's valuable or what means something or what should happen, well then, your nuts should be in the fire. So if we're going to have a death penalty, then the governor's nuts should be in the fire. He should say, I saw the fucking trial. The guy's guilty as fuck. Okay, and you can shoot me in the head, okay, if I'm wrong, because I saw the trial. Okay, he's guilty. Now, if a governor doesn't have the balls to say that, shoot me in the head if I'm wrong, then he shouldn't be signing death warrants.
Right, certainly not. Yeah, I would agree. I'm going to ask a question that I was in a debate with my supervisor the other day, and we were talking about, I was making this case that we don't have enough money devoted to preventing an existential threat in the form of an asteroid hitting planet Earth and so on and so forth. And his argument was that it's so infinitesimally small, such an infinitesimally small probability that it's not even worth the venture. Now, you are famously known for your antinatalism, which I want to nail down a strict definition of this. You're not saying that you want the human race to become extinct. what you're saying is you want us to stop reproducing. Is that correct?
Well, I'm just saying I'm giving you I'm giving you the decent option. I'm saying as a democracy, I like to do it formally, okay, and legally. But the point is, if I did have a red button in front of me and it blew the earth in half, I'd be pressing it, whether you like it or not. So I'm quite convinced it's the right thing to do, just because you don't have any moral right to impose life and to torture it. You're all doing Frankenstein games. It's all quite disgusting. You're all very bad and naughty.
So here's the I'm sure this is the classic argument that's made, the counter argument to that. Why not suicide?
Well, obviously, if I'm dead, I can't make the argument. So number one, it really degrades my argument skills when I'm dead. Okay, I really suck. Okay, in arguments.
I think 100%.
Yeah, when I'm dead, I'm really not very good. Okay, yeah, my comebacks really suck. So yeah, so that's the first obvious answer. The second answer is, once you're invested in life, it's like, well, what? I went through all this shit to accomplish nothing? Fuck you. No, I'm here. I'm not throwing it away, and you really don't want me thinking in those terms, because rationally you start saying, well, if I'm leaving, I might as well take the trash out with me. Right. So that's almost a dangerous kind of thought process, because if you give me nothing to lose, I might press a lot of little red buttons.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So I know this might be speculation, and I know how that annoys you. So I'll try to make it as brief as possible. But let's say we're having humans. You have people like Elon Musk who want to go to Mars and reboot civilization or establish another version 2.0 or whatever. Would you be against the enterprise of booting up a humanity 2.0 on Mars, provided like what would have to be the rules? Is there any means of control?
Yeah, well, the rules. I go ahead, torture yourselves if you want to. You won't. First, you won't be able to do it because it's just not possible. Yeah, you know what I'm saying. The grade in your life is going to be so substantial. Your life's going to be so miserable that you'll eventually kill yourself if you go, because it's going to be bleak as fuck. And but yeah, of course I'm against it. Where have we demonstrated any kind of rationality? What exactly is the utopia? I mean, is fucking in space somehow cooler? Oh, I fucked on Mars. I mean, is that really what gets you people off? You can't do anything. Like, you have to join the Mile High Club or something. You can't figure out how to do it in a normal bed anymore. You have to do some kind of kinky shit and start shoving vegetables up your ass or doing some other kind of bullshit. I mean, there's just absolutely no rational equation here. All this is people. This is like children playing Lego. I mean,
so why does anyone do anything then? It seems like, well, we shouldn't. Like, do you ascribe positive value to anything?
Well, I subscribe positive value to preventing harm. Yes. Okay, there. That's a good. Everything else that you're going to claim is a good, I'm going to claim is doubtful, because I can probably explain to you how it's really not a good. You're just fixing a negative condition that pre-existed.
If we could get everyone to, first and foremost, go about their daily lives preventing harm, would you kind of ease back on the pressing the red button? Like,
why?
Is there
we create the harm. We're not fixing something that's broken in the universe. We're fixing the broken we create. We're the problem. Okay, we're the broken thing. The living instrument is the need machine. There's no need outside of it. The universe doesn't need us, and that proof of that is like, is the universe crying because there's no Martians? Are human beings even crying because there's no Martians? We're supposed to understand what a tragedy it is that they don't exist, right? It's a horrible, awful tragedy. The Martians don't exist. How many human tears do you really think have actually fallen down a cheek and actually hit the ground because people are lamenting the horrible Holocaust of the non-existence of the 7 billion Martians? It's horrible. It's awful. What a catastrophe. Right?
It's not happening.
Well, I'm just saying. Doesn't that just prove that all we are is bigots? We're just talking about ourselves, and we're just doing this vicarious thing that, well, if I send some people to fucking space, somehow I'm going to have an orgasm.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wait a minute, that's stupid. Oh, but don't tell me it's stupid because I live based on stupid shit.
Mm.
You know, and that's
okay, with the okay, so wait. Yeah, preventing harm. Back to preventing harm. I just don't understand. Like, are we just doomed? In your philosophy, in your outlook, it's just gloom and doom. Like, is there any chance we could get our shit together?
Well, I'm saying, even I create a perfect virtual reality, all right? I create a video game where you don't really die, you don't really suffer, you just play and get laid and all that kind of stuff, right? The only thing that really makes that fun is that you have to walk the desert first, so to speak, right? I mean, to really enjoy the water, you have to walk the desert, right? To really enjoy the food, hey, I got to stimulate my appetite, right? If you're not hungry or you're actually sick, food isn't going to do it for you, right? So we know that it's all created out of that desire engine, so you've got to do that first. And we know that what really makes you passionate is deprivation. If I pile up the deprivation, if I pile up the pain and then I take it away, ecstasy, right? You don't get better pleasures than that, right? You're living in poverty and I give you the winning lottery ticket.
Right.
Bliss, right? And it's just a stupid ticket. It's a stupid ticket, right? I just gave you the idea of being relieved from your poverty, being relieved from the obligation to work for the rest of your life. And just the idea of that makes you happy.
So our pleasure is absolutely predicated upon our pain. That's the argument.
Just saying that no matter if you give me an example of something you think is a true good, I'll explain to you how psychologically you're just compensating from a deficit. It's really not a good. You're just fixing something that was broken from the day you were born, and that's all you're feeding. You're not feeding anything there's no such thing as a real good. There's just getting rid of your pain. Okay,
right. Well, what about reducing harm though? What about that? Like when I ask you, there's something and you say, "Oh, how about reducing harm?"
Yeah, well, the best way to reduce harm is don't make it harmable. Like I say, the Martians are doing it really well. They're the greatest harm preventers and stoppers in the universe. They are fantastic because they quit. They don't make messes. That's the best way to clean up a mess, is not to make it.
So there's just no way to operate. Once something exists, by virtue of its existence, necessarily there must
well, there's clues. There's really clues. You know, if people really look hard with their big giant brain, they'll see clues. Like babies come out of this slimy, bloody mess. They pop out in this horrible way. They have to have shit sucked out of them, and then they start crying. Now that should give you a clue that maybe this isn't a great idea. It doesn't look happy, right? Does it look like, hey, I just landed in bliss? No, it doesn't look like that. None of the whole process looks any blissy to me. I don't see any bliss anywhere in that fucking mess.
So there is absolutely no fucking way to unfuck this situation.
Well, it's Cannibal Island. I mean, look, okay, this is my acronym, right? Consumption, reproduction, addiction, parasitism, right? Because it's an island planet.
Crap.
We all become fucking parasites. That's right. That's what evolution is made out of. Those 4 letters say it all, and it's crap. They suck as ingredients. That's the ingredients that makes life. Consumption, reproduction, addiction, and parasitism. That's all we got. We got nothing else.
What about systems in which there are beneficial, I don't know what the opposite of a parasite is, but there are these organisms which shift into a kind of...
symbiotic is the word they use, right?
Yes, symbiotic.
Yeah, doesn't that sound all kind of lovely and pretty? That just means when you're really old parasites. It's like watching the old couple, right? Oh, look, they're so much in love, and no, they're not in love, right? They're just kind of attached at the armpits because they've been living with each other for 50 years and they don't know how to live without each other.
What about the birds that take the mites out of the elephants and so on.
Well, I'm just saying
that's a symbiotic relationship.
Yes, it's symbiotic, but I'm just saying it's just started off as parasitism. It started off as an exploitation, and became a mutually beneficial one. That doesn't does that make it good? No, it just means it's an old attachment, and they both now have become dependent on each other, fixing their problems. Okay?
So it's not a good, but it's not necessarily a bad. Are you saying it's kind of drifted into some kind of stage of senescence where it's neither good or bad?
I guess it just kind of depends in how you define good and bad over times, because this is what it really matters is in these old relationships, it's that they've become evolved and dependent. So if you want to say that exploitation being replaced by dependency is good, I'm going to say that no, that's just a sign of your genetic weakness. So now the elephant is genetically weaker because he doesn't have defenses against bugs unless the birds pick them off, right? And the birds are now dependent on a meal. They can't catch food in the real world. They can only catch it off an elephant's back.
But isn't that predicated upon the idea that organisms should exist independent of any other organism, when in fact we're actually dealing with a very complex dynamic network?
I know, but I'm just saying that ideally that's the way it should be, but I'm just saying then it's like a lifeboat, okay? And we're just become cannibals. I mean, that's inevitably going to happen on an island planet. So we're on an island planet, and somebody's going to have to learn how to eat shit, right? If I put one thing on the planet, right? Something's going to have to learn how to eat its shit, right? Because there's no other way.
Right, I agree. So then, naturally, proceeding forward from there, the only option, it would seem, is to get the fuck off the planet.
Well, again, but then you have to still synthesize all the things we are dependent on. We're 4 billion years dependent on this biosphere creating our sustenance, so to speak, our atmospherics. And so maybe I can, like I said, I can make a virtual reality. I can shove your brain in a beaker and I can make it happy. But I'm just saying, why would I create brains to do that? Okay, maybe it's fine as a treatment for you, okay? Now that you're here and I want to make you comfortable, I'll stick some electrodes in your head and make you comfortable. But I'm just saying, why would I, as an intelligence, say, let's do that some more? That's like saying, let's invent Martians. Why would I invent Martians? Okay, and the Martians don't exist. Should I really invent them? Should I invent Venetians? Should I invent Plutonians and Saturites and Uranusisms? Should I waste my time contriving excuses to make robots to beep around going, beep, 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 me fun, happy, happy, me so horny, beep, beep. I mean, what's the point? You just need machines. Why would I make a need machine?
I agree that you won't be able to fundamentally resolve the core pain. You won't ever be able to address that. However, I think that by reducing harm, by implementing a VR system or sponsoring a colonization of Mars or something,
how does putting people on Mars fix the people on Earth?
Well, it gets us off the cannibal boat.
Well, I'm just saying, how does it fix it? So what happens to the cannibal people? You're just going to ignore them? Just pretend they don't exist. Yeah, we're happy here on our little island of fun, so fuck all that. That's like the rich's attitude or something, okay? Ignore the slaves. They're not real people.
Yeah,
ignore the earthlings. They don't matter. Problem. Well, I'm just saying, you're not fixing the human problem. You're just transporting... Well, you're transporting 12 of them somewhere else to make a mess on another planet. Create another shithole.
Or if they are to affect a utopia, you're abandoning... the overwhelming majority of the population of the planet.
Well, like I said, utopia made out of what? It's a zero-sum game, so utopia means you didn't fail. But it doesn't mean you accomplished anything. The universe doesn't need you as much as you think it does.
Right.
There's no calculation you can possibly make that says somehow there must be human beings. Because if you say there must be human beings, then you have to say there must be Martians. And then there must be Venetians. And then there must be Saturites. And then there must be... I could go through the entire universe and say, I have to put some kind of feeling thing on this stupid planet so we can struggle to have an orgasm. Why would I do that?
The consciousness you say is defined by the neuron, right? The neuron produces consciousness, correct?
Well, you have to. I'm just saying the only model we have of anything that developed intelligence is this model. Okay, the model that is informed by a process of learning, and the only, in my opinion, the only way it can learn is it has to create reward and punishment. That means it has to create a real whip of some kind. Okay, you can't just synthesize that crap. You can't synthesize the prime directive in the sense of a self-interest, right? Now, say if I was a robot, all right, completely, and I had complete artificial intelligence. Right now, explain to me why a feeling matters.
Well, it matters because you're able to simulate within the robot brain what's taking place within the biological neuron.
Well, so I'm just saying how if I can't feel it, how are you going to prove to me when you say feel? There's a thing called a bad feeling, and I'm going to say bad how? What do you mean bad? There's no bad, idiot.
So you're making
no such thing. What are you talking about?
You don't believe that AI will ever achieve true consciousness?
I'm just saying the only way you can achieve it is through creating a value engine. You have to create a self-interest, and it has to have something that's going to stick it somewhere that's going to go ow. It has to know. It has to know what a whip is. Before it can understand that it somehow can cause bad. It can't understand whipping is bad if it never felt the whip.
And that has to be biological then?
I'm not saying it has to be. I'm just saying realistically it's an illusion in our biological brain. So I'm sure you can create an illusion in a synthesized machine. But I'm just saying we have no way to do the evolution, right? How do we evolve such a thing? Because let's say we even try the experiment. What if we get it to go, ooh, that hurt? You know what I'm saying? How do we know if we're going to torturing the damn thing? Right? If it can't talk. What if it has no language and it can't talk and it can't say ouch? But we're torturing it. We're torturing it, right? I mean, how can you can't play that game, right? Let's try to make a consciousness when we don't know what we're doing. Oh, yeah, great idea.
So precautionary principle would dictate that we shouldn't even begin to embark on such an enterprise.
Why do we need it? Our brains are quite capable of doing intelligence. We don't need... An artificial intelligence, all it can do for you is count to 1,000,000 faster. Now, is that really that fucking important? Artificial intelligence will not answer these big questions for you any better than you can answer them because the facts are pretty simple and we know them. Okay, and you can add it all up and say, I know what addiction is. Yeah, that's not a good thing. Come on.
What if an object like this, capable of calculating at this rate, was able to affect the transformation of the cannibal boat into one where resources are distributed effectively, efficiently, quickly, etc.? What if some type of machine like this were able to ameliorate the condition, the human condition?
I'm just saying you still can't... I said it before. Even if I made a perfect virtual reality to put something into, would I really want to create the want? Would I really want to make, give you, like say I'm making you, now I'm going to give you memories, and I'll give you memories of, let's say, 25 years of loneliness and rejection and all this stuff so I can make it so you can fall in love in a really big way. So I'm going to give you memories of pain and loneliness and sadness and defeat and all that crap. We know that the only thing that builds character is pain. We know that, right? Is that complicated to anybody? You don't gain any kind of true empathy or decency without without having your toes burned. Okay, and we see it in people. That's why people like a Donald Trump have no clue what's happening on planet Earth. It's because he's always had a net. He's always worked with a net. He doesn't know what he doesn't know what it's like to fall off the tightrope and have a couple of limbs broken, and then have to have the balls to get up there again, right? After you've had a leg broken or an arm broken, and now you've got to get back up on that wire.
What about someone might make the argument? Well, he did go bankrupt 4 times, something like that.
6 times.
6 times. Yeah. What about that? I mean, to say that, I don't know Donald Trump's pain or Hillary Clinton's pain or whatever, while I agree that they all operated with nets.
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying, is that really going to scare you? You know what I'm saying? Like losing your house. Was he really did he have any fear that he was going to have to live on the street? Did he have any fear that he was going to have to eat out of a dumpster? Come on.
No, certainly
okay,
not.
He hasn't faced the lion. He's always had a cage. The lion's always been on a leash, at least. You know what I'm saying?
So there's no way that Donald Trump can appreciate a good meal because he's never really been hungry. I mean, is that the argument we're making? It seems like it's just
well, I would say that he amplifies that, right? Because he thinks the world wants gold-plated sneakers, right? He thinks everybody wants diamonds and rubies and sparkle and this and all this crap. So that's his mentality, right? Is that we're never satisfied and that we have to have it fancier and we have to have Taj Mahal, right? That's what he was selling to us, right? So let's understand who needs that shit. Well, the person who needs that shit is the person who has no appreciation, okay? Who has who's had it easy, and they just keep saying, well, I have one Lamborghini, now I'll have two. It's like a Jay Leno or something, somebody who seems like a rational human being in some respect, and then you find out he's got 674 motorcycles, and that he has a whole house, doesn't have any people in it, just has motorcycles in it. And you're saying to yourself, well, that's something Forbes did, right? Forbes had palaces all over the world full of toy soldiers, right? And the only people in the palaces were dusting the glass vases that the soldiers are in, right? So you know how surreal that is? That's what he thinks is valuable in the world are fucking soldiers, not the people working for him, not the people living homeless that could live in the goddamn palace. No, he had the whole thing climate controlled, no doubt, too, right? I bet Jay Leno keeps the house with his motorcycles in it climate controlled because, we can't have those motorcycles get harmed in any way. But fuck some guy on the street with schizophrenia. Screw that asshole. I'll hit him with my Rolls Royce.
Right. They fetishize the objects. I mean, it's not so much that they fetishize
I'm just pointing out the lack of character. I'm just saying they have no character. Okay?
But, so, someone like Jay Leno, I mean, no one becomes successful overnight. You have over 3,000 videos to your name. You value those videos. Like, if they were to go missing suddenly, like, you want to keep them on a server. You want
to... Yeah, well, isn't that a colossally... a dime comparison to $1 million. I'm just saying, if it cost any real money to do that, I wouldn't sacrifice for it. I mean, I'm certainly living a meager existence because I have such an appreciation for what a dollar can buy. So I'm always going to buy on sale, and I'm always going to buy what I need. I mean, I make my own bread and shit. Yeah. Okay, I mean, I don't. You
don't fuck around.
Well, you're not going to get the argument. If I was a rich man tomorrow, I'd be a poor man a week later. Because I know what to do with money, okay? I know how to invest it in a better world. I don't need it to pay me back.
No, certainly not. But what about the inherent relativity of things? In that, when a wealthy person when a person becomes wealthy, they instead of buying that Honda, they'll buy the Lexus. Like, everything just kind of scales up. A lot of wealthy people are living paycheck to paycheck as much as poor people are because they're buying more expensive shit. So it really is zero sum in that regard.
Well, again, it's the zero sum was their lack of character in the first place, like I just said. I mean, it's the fact that they have no appreciation, right? It's just like, with people's sex and all the rest of this stuff, it's just an escalation of the porn. You know what I mean? So once they have this, then they want two of them, and then they want it, then they want it a la mode, and then they want it, they just... You know what I'm saying? Their tolerance keeps going higher. So instead of you got to smoke this much, then they got to smoke this much, then they got it's like cocaine or anything else. It just gets out of control. That's the nature of addiction.
So that's an inevitability. Like, there's no other way. There's no way to cleave.
Well,
to
that's
some
what I'm
kind
just
of
saying.
moderate...
No, of course there is a way, because once you know what it is to be homeless and on the street. Okay, you gain appreciation, and you can always go back to that in your brain and say, I know what this is really about. Okay, this is really about not getting eaten by the lion. Okay, that's what this is really about.
So your argument is that the child needs to have their hand burned on the stove. They can't learn that, not to put their hand on the stove. They have to do it. Well,
some of that has to happen. Like I said, getting lucky, almost breaking your leg, can be a very good lesson. You know what I'm saying? Almost this happening, almost that. I mean, I almost got killed a few times, and with each time I almost got killed, I learned something.
Oh my God.
Well, you know what I'm saying. I mean, I fell down once, right, and there was a stick in the woods, a broken stick. And it went right between my neck and my shoulder, right, when I fell. And I was saying, there, that was one of those examples where, an inch difference,
an inch to the left,
okay,
an inch to the right.
and I got a tragedy here. I got a real problem because I got a big stick in my neck, right? So those little things give you appreciation, and then for the rest of your life, you're thinking about sticks when you're in the woods.
Right.
You're mindful of the fact that you got to be a little bit careful. Don't be an asshole.
So there's an element of luck in an organism that learns. It's required either to be lucky or to get burned or have a stick go in your neck.
Well, I'm just saying that that's the best way is to get lucky. To get as close as possible to doom. Okay, to be almost. What I'm saying. Don't be homeless permanently. Just be homeless for a week. Just enough to give you a taste and a lesson, not too much to kill you and destroy you and make you a lunatic.
That's sound. That's a sound argument. Ken Cherbuck. I wanted to talk briefly about Ken. Ken was prominent on Stickam for some time. I think he was a lawyer from Vermont or New Hampshire. One recommendation that he gave to many of the people that would debate in those rooms was to memorize the list of logical fallacies, and I would add the cognitive biases as well. Do you pay much attention to that shit? Like, in terms of argumentation, you're a first principles first kind of guy, right?
Well, I like the idea. I've come to it, okay? So I can't say this is something I've figured out before, because it's something I've realized now, is that this is always a problem with arguments, right? Because it all gets very redundant. You end up going over the same stuff, so there needs to be some sort of learning curve before you get into the real nuances of a conversation where, both parties have acquired this knowledge base and have accepted certain premises. Because if you don't have a conversation with people where you've accepted premises, the loophole, the catch-22 starts. Because all of a sudden God gets thrown as an answer or something. You know what I'm saying? All the evasions can start, all the fallacious arguments can start, so you have to eliminate the possibility of the outs, and then you just deal with what we have established as facts. And when you put those around yourself, like, okay, there's no free will, and there's this, and there's this, and this, then, you can make your argument.
Do you think that theist or atheist or whatever brand or stripe of belief system that someone might have, that they're essentially saying the same thing using different language?
I wouldn't say there's much similarity between somebody who's trying to find out the truth and somebody who is addicted to a fairy tale. So I can't put those in the same category. There's people who are honestly trying to understand what it is to be alive, and then there's people who have a scheme in their head that says, well, even if there is no God, it's good for people, so I'm going to defend it. Yeah, I don't believe there's a hell, but I think people need to be afraid of Satan. That kind of idiocy. That's grotesquely dishonest. And I would say that most religious people are grotesquely dishonest. They demonstrate no faith. They demonstrate especially no faith in the Christian Jesus. I mean, for fuck's sake. They're walking around Christians with guns, and you're just like, what the fuck? How much faith do you have in anything Jesus said? You can't turn your cheek once. Let alone 70 times 7 times, you bastards.
Yeah. I wonder about like the semantic differences between people, and when a theist in what we would call his or her right mind, and an atheist in his or her right mind would simply refer to the universe and God kind of synonymously and be ignorant of that fact. But they're basically saying the same thing. Like Dick Cheney, for all intents and purposes, is like the worst kind of person that you could possibly conceive of, yet at his core, like, he wants his grandchildren to be happy. Like, it's hard to reconcile these fucking...
well, no, I don't think there's anything to reconcile there. I don't think he gives much thought to his grandchildren. If he does, he figures they're going to have the safety net. They're going to be living in cushy land, so why do they got to worry about anything? So that's just the mindset of the elitists. So the elitists don't really bother doing much thinking. they, they're Randian nihilist cunts.
Kind of sociopathic individuals.
They just find some rationalization to make it go away, and all of us do it to some extent. You know what I mean? I mean, we all have our bigotries. It matters more when it happens to the cute girl, or this is more. You know what I'm saying? I mean, we're all bigots, and
Certainly.
and I'm just saying their bigotry is even more disgusting in the sense that it's based on nepotism and some other kind of nonsense. Like, it's okay because I've protected my kind, my people are safe, and that's all that matters. My family.
Now, you had stated earlier that what you're essentially trying to do is pin everything down in very, very strict black and white kind of Boolean terms. Either it is or it isn't, right? Is there any room in there for some kind of Bayesian gray, like some kind of amorphous, like it's not really 0, it's not really 1? Like, how do you resolve the quantum?
Well, I do that. I have a whole theory that eliminates the need for all of that Heisenberg uncertainty and all the rest of that crap. That all goes away. There's no, I'm sorry, the universe is much more rigid and simple. It's a mechanical system, and cause and effect is rigid, and all of that stuff counts. I'd certainly say there's nuances that are beyond our perception. I'd say the thing about consciousness that's interesting is this mixture of this linear kind of analog, feeling thing versus this very digital thinking thing, right? The thinking thing is very black and white. The feeling thing is very
analog.
I don't know how much you're right. You can have two feelings, right? You can have a feeling, I want to survive, and then you can have a feeling, but I don't want to be harmed. And which one do I want more? And you know what I'm saying? So it's like picking a dessert. It's a really, when you look at what you're feeling, you're saying, well, how do you pick? Because you have this uncertainty, this mushy feeling thing. So it's not as obviously rigid. It's rigid, I'm saying, in reality, but it's not rigid in terms of perception.
Once it hits the human nervous system, then things start to get a little fuzzy.
It's subconsciously deterministic. It's not consciously obvious. I guess that's all I'm trying to say.
So then, by extension, you would say that there is a point past which we can't predict, no matter what kind of statistical models we have, how accurate they may have been in the past, that there is always the chance that hostile extraterrestrials could invade planet Earth tomorrow, for lack of a better expression. You get what I'm saying, though? That there is a point past which we can't predict with certainty whether or not something is or isn't going to happen.
We can't predict anything in the sense that we can't isolate ourselves from the fact that there could be a comet out there right now that's heading right for us, and we're going to be dead in 48 seconds. So in that sense, we can't predict anything is a certainty. We can't say anything is an absolute. I'm just saying we can go by is reason, and we can go by some kind of standard of reasonable doubt. And I'm just saying that I don't see any reason. I'd say it's proven beyond reasonable doubt that there's no fairies, there's no leprechauns, there's no magic in the system. It's a really crude system. It made a really crude process called evolution, and that process was so crude it took 4 billion years to make us, right? It's like, it's a crude system, not a...
Are you... not a crisply defined, kind of very elegant, sophisticated type of system.
Right. It's harsh and brutal in the sense of its crudeness, and that's why we're harsh and brutal as a result, because there's nothing fancy about it. That's why it's consumption, reproduction, cannibalism, addiction, or consumption, reproduction, addiction, and parasitism. Crap.
Harsh human beings produce as an expression of a harsh universe. I want to ask you, we're getting towards the end of the podcast. I have one more question, kind of line of questioning that I want to get to. There's a gentleman, he's a quant. He made a lot of money in financial markets, but he's kind of what you would call a black sheep within the financial markets, because he's very outspoken against kind of the rigging of the system and the hedge funds and all of that shit. His name is Nassim Taleb, and he wrote a book called Black Swan, the probability of highly improbable events, and he has a new book out called Anti-Fragility. His theory basically in Black Swan is that there are certain events, certain transformative catalytic events that have taken place in history, and that humans are, in order to make sense of these events that radically change the topography of reality, that basically what we do is we kind of backwards or retroactively ascribe predictability to what is actually an inherently radically, chaotically unpredictable phenomenon, whether that's September 11th or whether that's the internet emerging or the evolution of consciousness or whatever. Would you follow that we kind of take for granted our post priori knowledge of things that happen in the past, and we look back on them and say, yeah, I could have seen that coming, when in fact we had no fucking idea?
Well, I think we keep having this conversation like it matters somehow, but I'm just saying, yeah, you can know that a seatbelt will save your life 82% of the time. It'll cause less harm, and then 17% of the time it'll get you harmed more. That's a fact. Okay, so what? You still wear your seatbelt, fucker. I mean, it doesn't do you any good to know that, there's all this stuff you can't control because you can't see it happen. I didn't see that the president was going to get a blowjob. Oh, okay, I didn't see that coming. You know, and it would end up on the news, and I'd end up being impeached for getting a blowjob, and this would be a whole big thing, and blah, 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 blah. No, I didn't see that coming. Who cares? I knew something stupid was going to happen. Sooner or later, something stupid's going to happen.
Right.
That's my prediction. My prediction is something stupid will happen.
Yeah, you're going to be 100% right.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, but that example of the seatbelt, wearing the seatbelt, are you using that just kind of as an expression, like given the anti-natalist and kind of not, given
I'm
that
just saying,
philosophy?
we know the probabilities, and I'm just saying we know what's in this mixture, and so there's no fairies, there's no leprechauns, so why are we expecting that there's going to be some singularity we go to and everything will poof into gold bars and we'll all be happy because we all have gold bars in our pockets, and somehow that'll make us all feel better because we have gold in our pockets, even though we don't have anywhere to spend it, but we have it.
We'll have tons of gold bars in our pockets, but we'll be transported into the middle of the ocean. It'll be
well,
awesome.
I'm just saying, it's like religion, they pearly gates and the rubies around, when they describe, when you read the Bible, they have little descriptions in there, and the whole bottom of heaven is covered in rubies and emeralds. And doesn't that sound a little bit silly? I've lived and died so I can go up to heaven and rub rubies. Do I really want to rub rubies or something and just watch the rubies ruby? Yeah. Wait, is that really something that's going to matter to me?
No, certainly not. Well, then, what do you think of the technological singularity that's put forth by people like Ray Kurzweil and so on and so forth, that's supposedly predicated upon scientific falsifiability and the scientific method?
Well, whatever. There's no scientific method. They still haven't proven Einstein's lensing. They haven't. It's all a big fraud, to tell you the truth. Physics is such a lie. So much of it is just crap, absolute crap. They make up crap. Dark matter, they made it up. It's just crap. Okay, they needed to fix the math. They've created a Huygens thing to fix the two-slit experiment. Horrible lies and deceptions are just through. I mean, I didn't realize that, but yes, physicists are just absolutely full of crap.
So nothing really. I have to talk about this, but nothing truly bizarre is happening at the quantum scale.
It's a bug planet, man, okay? And the universe is made mostly out of balls of fire, okay? There's just nothing spectacularly fun about this whole universe adventure thing. It's round balls banging into each other. Some of them are on fire. Some of them are leaking radiation constantly. This is the universe, okay? And in this little corner of it, what are we doing? Oh, that's right, we're playing some silly lifeboat game where we get to eat each other. Oh, what a spectacular, how wonderful.
Wow, it sounds great. Sign me up.
Yeah. Well,
said no one, ever.
Well, I'm just saying, And on the scale, like I said, again, we just keep playing this human thing like it's separate from the biosphere. The biosphere, which most of the consciousness is, most of the pain is being endured in the biosphere. And humans are completely oblivious to that truth. They've killed those children, so to speak. They've sacrificed them to their god of the DNA molecule. We're human, they're not, you know.
How do you enhance survivability in a system where we're essentially all cannibals in a reptile petting zoo, murdering and cannibalizing?
Like I said, I don't want to do anything to enhance survivability. I want to enhance the quality of our existence. And
right. Yeah. And to do that, we just look for ways to reduce harm?
Yeah, we stop having kids and figure out how to have sex without cucumbers in our asses.
So then, obviously, you're like an advocate of the pull-out method. Is that the?
I'm an advocate of whatever. I'm an advocate of reasoning and taking responsibility for what you're doing. Where most people can't in any way justify their own life, let alone justify having the control and the power to create another human being, to take responsibility for the welfare of another human being. If they had a retarded kid, do they really think they have any way of fixing it?
Yeah. What I'm saying is, when you got your dick in a pussy, you know what I'm saying, and you're fucking this pussy, you're a proponent of pulling out. Basically,
whatever. I'm a proponent of you. Look, if you're going to do it, you get sterilized, you use the condom, you do whatever you have to do. But yeah, you take responsibility for what you're doing. It's not that hard not to have fucking kids, for Christ's sakes. I mean, this is another one of these people who can't live without drugs or something. No, it's really not that fucking hard, fucker. If you don't want to have a kid, okay, there's lots of ways to prevent it. There's, not only can you use lubricants that kill sperm, you can use your condom, okay. And if you're really going to be saying you're just too sloppy or lazy to take responsibility, well then get sterilized, fucker.
What about so like with the condoms, for example, that's unpopular among...
Look, the problem of reproduction has nothing to do with accidents, okay? The fucking idiot poor people, they're creating idiocracy, are not having fucking accidents, okay? So accidents aren't the problem. We can see that the rich countries aren't having an accident problem. Japan isn't having an accident problem, is it? Accidents aren't out of control in Japan, are they? No, they're even having a problem getting people to do it on purpose, let alone have an accident. So accidents aren't a subject.
Which causes like some pretty serious economic consequences, because you have a rapidly aging population that can no longer support the GDP.
Yeah, but there's an underlying principle that makes that all go away, and that it's called the word unsustainability. You can't live on growth, okay? It's retarded. It's a fucking island. You can't do that. You can't populate the entire universe on Earth. Okay? You can't grow your population forever, okay, on Earth. So it's a stupid argument. You're dependent on a unsustainable philosophy of growth. Okay, well that's unsustainable. You know what that word means? It will drive you to a brick wall. So you're basically just saying, I want to crash into a brick wall. Well, what I would do is say, you belong in an insane asylum, and maybe I'll put that over the concentration camp. Insane asylum. Or concentration camp. Well, I'm just saying it's too stupid, isn't it? Isn't that too stupid? If somebody's going to defend what they're doing by saying growth is necessary, then I'm going to say, you're too retarded to even know my language, okay? You're just too stupid.
Okay, speaking of stupid, I have to talk about this, because this segues right into it, and I just want to get like a few words from you on it. Parasites, we're parasites. What about the Gaia hypothesis, wherein planet Earth then expels the parasites in some kind of catastrophic
There's
event?
no Gaia, there's no other living things that are conscious, there's no other way to manifest it. It's a neurological function, there's no evidence that it exists anywhere else. Gaia's not a living organism. Gaia's a hunk of seaweed, if anything, okay? The whole Gaia monster is just seaweed, all right? If we're going to make this argument that I'm made out of cells, right? Okay, I mean, there's levels of function, right? Technically, I'm not a living thing, right? My cells are alive. And this argument goes back to physics, too, because I would argue on the real physics level, all there is the quanta. There's just the moving stuff, the stuff going the speed of light. The matter is a school of fish. Okay, so you think about the fish, you think about the school. Well, what is the school of fish? Well, it's the fish, fucker. Right? The school doesn't move unless the fish move. Right? If the school moves, the fish had to swim, didn't they? Okay.
Right.
Okay. So we can talk about ourselves and say we're living things. Well, we're not really living things, right? We're colonies of living things.
Exactly.
Okay.
Like a
so we're not really a living thing. Okay. We're just a machine. We're a machine that's protecting an egg or a sperm, right? In a sense, right? The only living part of us is our spermatozoa or the egg. That's the living thing, that we are just this funny robot that's carrying around those eggs and that sperm.
Well, the people like a Ken Wilber, an integral whatever, he would contend that, you know, it's like what does he refer to it as? It's like hollow something, wherein we are comprised of ourselves, and then together we comprise the human race, and then together with the
I'm just saying
plants
that we have 100 billion neurons for a reason. The theater of consciousness isn't a simple function, it's a complex function. You got to have neurons, and you got to have enough of them. You got to have at least a few 100,000 of them. Okay, we have 100 billion of them. But I'm just saying it's a function that requires there to be neurology. There's no reason to think it happens because there's tubes in wood or something. Well, the tubes are, to pretend those are neurons is pretending. That's pretending. That's called pretending. Okay, when people pretend that the planet is conscious, they're pretending.
I predict something stupid is going to happen.
Exactly. Well, that's I can predict that people will keep being religious, and that's all that is religion.
Certainly.
The wrong answer. Okay, good questions, bad answers.
Wrong answer.
Yes.
Good initiative, bad judgment.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Yeah, right. Fail is still fail, buddy.
Yeah. I want to thank you very much for coming on the program, and I want to let everyone know to go to donotgod.com or donotgo.com and check out Inmendham on YouTube at youtube.com/INMENDHAM. Inmendham, thank you very much for coming on the show, Gary.
Yeah, it's good seeing you, Ben. And until next time. Implying there'll be a part 2. Yeah.
I like it. Definitely. Okay. Definitely want you to come back. Thanks again.
All right.
All right, that's it. We're good.
Yay, no failures.
That was awesome, man. Thank you so much.
Nothing went wrong anyway.
Yeah, right.